Hey, if you've got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night. It's the 21st of October. It's just 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. And if you got it any other time than that, it just means you've got the recorded version. Hang tight. If you have got the recorded version, hang tight, and we'll get started here in just one moment. A little bit of pre-show. We want to welcome back Mike Uyghur. Mike, it feels like you've been gone forever. Was it just 2 weeks?
Was it 2 weeks?
I think it was.
We didn't have a show, did we? Was that
maybe
what it was?
we didn't have a show, and then it was
and
2
then
weeks.
I was gone. Yep, I think that's what it was.
So.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we'll get started here in just a second. I see Jim Shoemaker and Joe's out there. Brian, good to see you. Ken was checking in a little bit earlier. We got a full agenda with us tonight. Ed Ramirez is joining us as well. Hey, Ed, how are you?
Hey, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good.
Long
good
time
to see
listener. First time to being on your show. Appreciate it.
It's not that I thought I had you on once before. I think I've had. Or maybe it was like Rich's random podcast generator or something.
Yeah. That's man. How is Rich doing, anyways? I haven't talked
to Rich in a while. He's playing. He's in a band and he's playing some stuff and he's looking good. So I'm assuming
this isn't Rich Hay. Different Rich.
No, different Rich.
Okay.
Rich O'Neill. Yeah, Rich O'Neill. Yeah, Mike, for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, we had this podcast called Rich's Random Podcast Generator.
That's what it was.
And we'd just get together on Saturdays and we'd record for 2 or 3 hours. And it was just whoever could do it, right?
Yeah.
And then Rich would edit that thing for all week. And he'd edit it down to something usable. And then we would post it. And that was the name of the podcast, Rich's Random Podcast Generator. And it was kind of fun. It was just a weekend, whole different in the world of podcasting, a whole different day. Like just a different era. But Ed, I think you joined us on that one, on one of those, or maybe two.
Probably.
Because I distinctly remember you were building some shelves or building a desk.
Oh yeah, yes, that's what it was. I matter of fact, it was supposed to be right behind me. I took it down right now.
Yeah,
so I was like, making this into a proper bedroom here. It's one of my projects.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. So we'll save that. Okay, let's get this thing rolling. We got a lot to talk about, and let me get this thing fired up, guys. Thanks if you're in the chat room. Thanks for joining us. I've done this like my 5th podcast this week. So thank goodness I have tomorrow off. No, not off, but
no podcast,
no media. Yeah, no media tomorrow, which is kind of nice. Nice to get a Friday. It used to be Thursday, Fridays were my heavy days, and then it started shifting a couple years ago. All of it started shifting to the beginning of the week, so it's now like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday heavy, and Thursdays and Fridays are fairly light for whatever reason. It's just
kind of nice. End your week on a
we used to do a podcast every Friday. And that meant I had to be here every Friday. You're like, wow. Oh man, I need to. Yeah, it's like I need to not do that so I can take some Fridays off. So,
your wife would be putting out a missing report on you there.
Yeah, she doesn't even like me, so she doesn't care. All right, let me do this thing. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 509, recorded on October 21st, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here. Mike, fall, right? It's arrived. We're here. Now, listen, everybody complains like it goes from summer to winter, and it never... Listen, we've had a good string, maybe 2-3 weeks. Fall is on its way, right? Are you feeling it?
I noticed it. We did a trunk or treat last night with the kids and my wife's work, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's cold. Like it was the first time. I'm a shorts as long as I can get away with it type of guy, and it was the first time I'm like, I should have worn pants tonight. I definitely should have worn pants.
It's chilly. Ed Ramirez is with us, and Ed, you're in. You said North Carolina?
Yeah, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, and then so what's the weather like? Is fall on its way? Or are you guys still in that? It hasn't tipped over yet.
Well, Mike, I'm with you right here. Yesterday, I was at the cigar lounge over there at Taylor Smoke. And I was outside in shorts and a t-shirt, having a cigar. It was great weather. And then as the sun went down, it's like, ooh, it's starting to get a little chilly out over here,
Exactly. Yep. Especially if it gets cloudy, like it's one cloud passes the sun. You're like, ooh, that's okay. Now I'm really cold.
It doesn't take much, right?
No.
Exactly. I'm sitting there turning around while I'm sitting outside at the cigar lounge smoking a cigar. I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm the only one outside. Everybody else went inside. Okay.
Well, it's been there's been some nice deck nights, and you just can't pass them up. Like
No.
you go out there, it's like 65 degrees, and it's crisp, and we've now here in Nebraska, it's the time of year, it's moth season, and so the moths are just terrible this time of year. They're better than mosquitoes, but you just sit on the deck, and we just kind of put up with them, and it's just been beautiful. So forever.
But we did have the transition week, which I liked, because Emmett's birthday, my oldest, just turned 5. His birthday's October 15th, and it's always a toss up whether we can do a nice out, backyard or pumpkin patch birthday. We had it in the backyard, got a bouncy house, and this past Saturday was the most perfect day we have had in a very long time. No wind, just beautiful weather. It was great. So we were glad we got at least one moderate day in there for his birthday.
We've had a couple. I mean, I've gotten out a couple nights during this whole time, and Ed, to your point, burning a few candles out there on the deck and enjoying. It's just you can't pass it up.
No.
It's not. I'm gonna have to go in the shed here and turn on the heater. That got recalled.
I remember that when you're talking about that, when you're like, oh, by the way,
I know. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Got to figure out. Well, anyways, we'll post the show. Neil, by the way, Neil sent me an email this week, and he was like, do you really have, I think it was Neil, do you really have show notes? You say this every week, but I went out and looked at them, and they're just a few links. They kind of are. I've been saying that as a joke, maybe for, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. If we do mention things, I will put links in the show notes if we mention things on the program. I used to do the transcripts. Nobody read them and nobody cared, just to be honest. So I changed on the show notes now. It says by request. If you ever are in a situation and you need transcripts for Home Gadget Geeks, just let me know and I can generate them in, I don't know, an hour. Doesn't take very long. They won't be perfect. If you want them perfect, then you're going to need to be a Patreon subscriber, and then I'll fix them for you. So that's kind of the way that works. But if you do need transcripts, kind of let me know.
Still world class though.
They're always world class.
The links always work.
No.
Still world class.
It's world class. Yeah, world class stuff for sure. Big thanks, Dan Lefebvre, who joined last week from Based on a True Story podcast. I also got an email. I won't say the name on this, but I got an email who said, Jim, you're an amazing interviewer, and I didn't think it was going to work to go a full hour and some change on a movie-based pod, because Dan does Based on a True Story podcast. Those are movies that are based on a true story.
Right.
And he said, but you did, and congratulations, but get back to tech. So that was Eric.
So
Eric, thanks.
I promise you that.
Eric, thanks for your note, but big thanks to Dan, who came on last week, based on a true story podcast.com. I really enjoyed it, and it was tons of fun. Mike, welcome back. Where have you been, man? What's been keeping you busy?
Been all over the place. Yeah, we had our work puts on a conference for our industry, and it was actually in Vegas. So I was in Vegas for a week, and I think in the pre-show, Jim, I was telling you, a week is a week too long in Vegas. That was Vegas is meant to be a 1-night, 2-night thing. I was there Monday, got back late Friday, and just all work throughout it, and then some fun in the evenings, and it was a great time. Great conference, met a lot of good advisors out there who are doing really good work, and we actually had George W. Bush as our keynote speaker, and so he came. And I tell you, having George W., after his presidency, he was just candid about everything. Mm-hmm. He was you realize that they're human beings. He was very, just moderate, right down the middle. Like he didn't have to make political statements. So it was just his stories. I think he could be a stand-up comedian. Probably. He said he had to sit down a lot, so he couldn't be a stand-up comedian. But his stories, I mean, he had stories about Putin's dog and his dog. I mean, and he was he was hysterical. So really enjoyed it. I think no matter where all of our audience aligned politically, they all just super enjoyed his candid nature, his funny remarks. And so it was him and our CEO up on stage, kind of going back and forth. And it was really good. So a really good conference, but very glad to be back in Nebraska. Vegas, that was my first time in Vegas, by the way.
Really?
And that was just a lot. Yeah, I had never been. And so that was a lot to take in.
I agree with you. I'm not a big Vegas fan. Ed, do you like Vegas? Or are you?
I've been out there a couple of times. I haven't been out there about 10 years. But one quick story. First time I went out to Vegas, went right out there when I was in the Navy. Went with a couple friends, just the last minute thing. Had an opportunity to see Red Fox. Got the tickets, went to see him. Got the tickets, was going to go see him. Let me take a nap, set my alarm, slept through the alarm, missed his show. Regret it to this day.
Oh, bummer.
That I missed to see Red Fox. But again, it's one of those things, if you go once, it's too much to take in. But if you go out a couple of times and you could focus on the shows, not so much on gambling, on the shows, oh my God, it's a blast.
That's what I've heard. I heard you need to really go. You need to enjoy the shows. If you can avoid a lot of the other stuff, it's good. I was talking about, my wife was asking me, she was, okay, so like, is it a place we need to go as a vacation? Because she's also never been there. I was like, honestly, if it was just you and me, I'd like Nashville. That's like our style of live music, but not with all the other distractions, and but still a great time. But yeah, as far as like, I was like, I could skip it. But I got to go back next year for our conference, so I'll be back another time for sure.
You'll figure out how to kind of work Vegas while you're there, And there, what's weird is, so I had a listener that lived in Vegas, and I was out there, I don't know, 4 or 5 years in a row for CES and some other stuff, and so you go off strip, and I think we met just at a restaurant, like Applebee's in Vegas, and it's just all of a sudden you go from the strip to Applebee's, and it feels like the Applebee's in your hometown, and you're like. This is weird. Or you go to the Best Buy in Vegas and it just feels like a Best Buy, And I went out to his house, and guess what? It's just a regular house, right? So, this dichotomy between the strip and everything else.
It was night and day. I took a bunch of prospects out to Topgolf one of the nights, and when we got to Topgolf, it felt like we were back at the Omaha, Nebraska Topgolf. Like, besides the fact you can see the strip up in the scenery, but like it was just normal. So it was a good time. But I'm glad to be back.
Hopefully, Mike, this didn't happen to you. Tony says my wife took me to a Vegas show, not realizing it was a topless show. No. Nor did I know it.
That sounds like a prank my wife would pull on me if I went. She would know, but I wouldn't know. That's great, Tony. I love it.
Yeah. Well, geez. Well, welcome back. Good to have you. Good to have you back. While you were gone, so some important things happened to me. I haven't. It's been an eventful 4 weeks for me, and I haven't really got a chance to talk about it on the show. I won't make it a long story, but just to kind of, because I'm pretty transparent on the show. So about 3 weeks ago, I had an MRI. I went to see my urologist. I've struggled with an enlarged prostate. Gentlemen, get your physicals. Like, do it regular. Like the PSA, get your physicals, get them regular, get your blood checked, all those kinds of things, right?
Colonoscopy, get that done.
Just do it. Like, I know you don't want to. Like, I know you don't, but do it. Like, you need to do these things. Now, the good news is, I've been, I caught this 4 or 5 years ago. And so this was a regular maintenance checkup. But my doctor ordered an MRI. He was like, it's probably time we take a look again, take some pictures. So I went in on a Friday for an MRI. It came back the next week with a spot on it. Now, they score those, and it's a 1 through 5 scale, and it was a 4/5, which means it's probably cancer, right? You're like, oh, okay, it's probably cancer. Now, I've been thinking about this for 4 or 5 years, so it's not like it was a gigantic shocker, right? Not like it hit me like, oh, no, I've always kind of wondered, at some point, this is probably going to happen. I just need to be ready for it. So they scheduled a biopsy for, I think, just 2 weeks ago now, and went in. Gentlemen, that is not a comfortable procedure, but it's one you got to do. It just is. You'd think in 2021 there'd be an easier way to do a prostate.
Do they put you under for that? Or
no?
You're awake.
No, you are awake.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you're awake. Listen, this isn't one I hesitate to tell this story because every guy is going to just clinch.
Yeah, we're going to fear it. You're making me not want to go, Jim. You said, go get your stuff done, and now I'm not wanting to go.
Yeah. So, okay, here's the cool tech angle to this. So they take the MRI. So they did a full MRI. It took about 45 minutes. It's sitting in the tube, which is crazy. Again, you feel like it's 1950. You're like, there's got to be better. We have 3D printers, for God's sakes, that can print food. Can't we get MRI devices that don't feel like they've jammed you inside a bullet? Right? Kind of deal. No, apparently not. And I think there are better MRI machines. Just the one I went through wasn't very good. So they take the pictures from the MRI, they merge them in real time with an ultrasound. So they got an ultrasound device so they can see so they can go right to the spot. right? In other words, there's a spot in there. There's a lot of, I mean, there's not a lot of square footage on your prostate, but there's enough.
Yeah.
So they merge the two together and they go in there and do biopsies on it. And so they took a whole bunch of samples and called me back 2 days later and said, these were the exact words from my doctor. You're the luckiest guy in the world right now. He goes, everything's clear. We couldn't find anything. He goes, I dug in as much as I could to make sure we got everything. And I thought for sure we were going to find something and we didn't. So
wow.
The end of the story is a good one. And I'm certainly glad it wasn't cancer. It's like these kinds of things, gentlemen, most of us will pass with some form of prostate cancer. It just won't kill us, right? And so just make sure, if you're hearing the sound of my voice, just make sure, and not only for that, but for your heart and for your liver and for all the other things that are important. I always joke about having a bacon encrusted heart. It's really important that you do these things. And certainly everyone was relieved, no cancer on that. Eventually, I think, Mike, and I think I'm gonna have to deal with this. Like, I don't think at some point it's gonna come.
Yeah. Do you think, are you at the stage now where it's okay, I went through the mental hula hoops of, I thought I had it for sure, then I didn't. So like if it came around again, is it one of those like, okay, like I'm kind of more prepared to handle it? Would you rather have handled it just on the front while you're going through it?
Yeah. If I'm going to have it,
yeah.
Like if I'm going to have cancer, I'd rather have it when I'm young, just to be honest. Like you don't want to be fighting this. Right. Ed, you recently lost your parents, right? Yeah. And how old were they?
My dad was 72. My mom was 78.
Yeah. Right.
My dad had diabetes and he's been struggling with it for well over 30 years, trying to manage it. I think he had type 1, which he was insulin dependent, if I'm not mistaken, or it's type 2. I keep getting them mixed up, but he was insulin dependent, struggled with it for years. And unfortunately, as he got older, it just got worse and worse for him, to the point where he was just basically just going through a revolving door. He would get sick, go to the hospital, treat it, go to a rehab place, rehab him for a month or two. Mm-hmm. And they say, Hominus Dominus, Vios con Dios, may God be with you. You're all better now. Send him back home. A couple months later, get sick again. Yeah. And it's just a constant thing. And it's just one of those things. His body wore down. Now, one of the things too, which Jim, you bring up a good point, is both of my parents, they had all their legal documentation in order. Mm-hmm. From a living will, if they wanted a DNR, had everything in order. Both my mom and my dad. My dad, he lived in Florida. I live in North Carolina. My mom lived up here in North Carolina. So pretty much my stepmom took care of my dad and everything and made sure everything was in order. So once my parents did pass away, my dad, everything was legal bound, who got what. So there was no gray area. It was like, here you go. With my mom, same thing. My mom, she had a DNR and so forth. One of the things is, like what you were kind of talking about, Jim, if you do go to a lawyer and get everything, which I would highly recommend, pay for a lawyer, get your legal documents in order, who gets what. Make sure you have a hard copy of it as well, as long as with the digital, because like in my mom's case, she had a DNR. Then you need to, when you go to the hospital, you have to show that to the hospital, because if they don't have it, they're going to go ahead and keep her alive, or keep alive. But if you would, and that's happened in the past, and I showed the documentation, and it's like, okay, take the tube out. Here we go. So it's tough to talk about.
Yeah.
It's, but with both of my parents, especially my mom, we had those discussions. Mom, God forbid if something happens, what should we do? So it was easy in my mom's case, because she was up here, and with my dad, they said, here's what we want. We don't want to be in it. Basically, don't want to be in any pain. We want to be comfortable. And that's just it right there. Now, Jim, I was going to ask you, when you were going through this, traumatic experience, with cancer, how did your family take it? Your wife, your kids, because how did they handle that?
Yeah, it's a great question. They were actually kind of more freaked out by it than I was. Like, since I've been dealing with this for 4 or 5 years, I kind of know it's coming. I just kind of knew. And I was kind of, I joked with some folks about it. I was kind of ready, and I was ready to fight it. Like I was like, okay, if we're going to do this thing, let's do it. And I'm going to do it because, I'm crazy. Right. So
that's what you told me. And like
Yeah.
when because I think you told me after the show one night, and your spirits were like super high. And I wasn't going to be the one to bring him down, but because I was like, are you like, I was like, does he know I'm serious? But you were just like in the best, but you were ready to tackle it. That's very true. It's a very apt way to describe how, like, your mental state, at least when you were talking to me about it.
I just kind of decided like, okay, let's make a thing out of this. I mean, I've run 5 marathons and I've done a whole bunch of crazy things. And so, you're like, okay, I mean, this is a thing and it's going to be hard. And it's the possibility is still out there. So like, it's not, this doesn't end it permanently. I'm going to always have to be vigilant about making sure I'm taking care of myself and putting myself in the best possible situation for it. Right. But Mike, I was, and Ed, I was kind of ready for it. So the family was, and my wife was freaking out pretty soundly. She had taken out a cancer policy on me about 8 years ago. Not even, she worked for Aflac at the time, and she saw all these cancer patients coming through who had Aflac.
Wow.
And she's like, oh, we're doing this for the cost for $30 a month or whatever it is. We are doing this. So wasn't too worried about it. I have fairly good insurance, so I wasn't too worried about it from that. I knew it was going to be hard. I mean, it would most likely be radiation, most likely be local radiation or surgery, which is a lot worse. Actually, the prostate surgery is more invasive than the radiation treatment to go with prostate cancer. So the options aren't really good with prostate, right? I mean, you want to do. Ideally, you want to do everything you can to make sure it doesn't get cancerous until the very end, right?
Right.
It's a slow moving cancer. It's pretty, it doesn't, I mean, it's not the most aggressive form of cancer you can get. There are some worse. By the way, I think we're also in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I think that's happening right now too. So important to remember, I mean, for the ladies as well, important to remember these things. I mean, this kind of stuff. I guess the cool part is there's so much interesting science now. My doctor was telling me as he was, and Jim had said this. Let me get to some chat. Tony had said it's a Gleason score, and I think that's right. The PSA numbers. He says, Jim mentioned that he has a large prostate as well. He's been on some meds for several years. I have as well. I think ProScar is what I use. Had a biopsy of my prostate. It came back benign. Bend over. And it was, listen, that's the worst part of this, right? Is that it's just super uncomfortable. And it is, I ask my doctor all the time why, and he's like, well, it's kind of genetics. Like you were given a really large prostate. And I said, well, size matters, right? So he doesn't necessarily agree with me on that one, but yes, all males should get a PSA, that Jim says again. Test regularly. You should get that with your physical on an annual basis. Have a friend who came back non-benign. He had the operation, came through okay, and that's sometimes they just take the whole thing. Listen, that surgery is not your appendix. You don't take it out and then you're like, oh, okay, now goodbye. No, it's a serious surgery because a lot of nerves down in that area as well, and so it kind of has an effect. Again, you want to catch these things. Early. Thanks for the congratulations in chat. Listen, I don't want to minimize this. I don't want to sensationalize it to be like, I was ready, bring it on. But I kind of was ready and kind of bring it on. It was one of those, like, if I'm going to have to go through something like this, I had kind of planned, Mike, to make it part of the show. That we would kind of, as we go through it, just to make it part of the show. So good news is no.
Great.
And
bad news is Sarah has to go return the Mercedes-Benz. She threw the Aflac policy at you and said, dang it.
I know.
Jim,
she was like, I thought we were going to be able to
car.
cash in this life insurance policy. Gosh darn it. She was pretty happy about that. But Ed, when you were, certainly when this happened to me, I've been spending some time thinking about and preparing. We have a book that I keep all my life insurance stuff in. I've got instructions for Sarah because it doesn't have to be a long, slow, like cancer. I mean, I could step outside and get struck by lightning, right?
Exactly.
So with your parents, anything that you learned or anything where you needed to employ some technology like it was better today than it might have even been 20 years ago?
Great question. One of the things, like in my mom's case, when she got all her legal documents, her living will, her power of attorney for her regular power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and her DNR. It was all in paper form. So I took the time to go and scan it in as PDFs and emailed it to, my sister and my brother-in-law. So they have that as well. Because again, a lot of your hospitals, they got email, like, hey, who can I send this to? Zip, 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 here are the documents. So that we have it right there. And then, like I said, I printed out copies for all of them as well. But by having the PDFs right there, like in one case where my mom fell ill, I mean, love my mom to death, but she was like a cat, man. She had 9 lives, man. And she blew through those suckers, man. I kid you not. I ain't lying. It's just, but one of the times we were in the hospital, we're like, okay, this is it, and I called my brother-in-law and said, hey, I need those documents. I don't have them. I'm here at the hospital with my mom. He said, no problem. He went ahead and printed them out and brought them up here and went ahead and give them to the hospital administrator, and they scan it in and they have it on file, but they only keep it in there for a certain period of time. It isn't forever. So it's always good to have those on hand. But like I said, and really the other thing is just sitting down and talking, like in y'all's cases, sitting down talking with your spouses. Hey, if this happens, this is what it sounds morbid, but it's not. This is what I want to have done. And this is a conversation that I had with both my parents, my mom and my dad. And, more so with my mom, because she lives up here with both me and my sister. So when it did come, it was the final time. We both knew. I was like, okay, what did she really want? She wanted to be comfortable and not in pain. Yeah. And since I was a medical power of attorney, I had to struggle and make that decision right there, because she had to get a surgery that she may not pull out of it. And of course, the doctors will tell you don't give her the surgery, don't give her the surgery. But she was in pain. Yeah. So I went back and remembered what she told us. I don't want to be in any pain. I said, let's do the surgery. So it's one of those things when that was done. And then, of course, afterwards, I created a website for family members where I went ahead and scanned in pictures and had pictures scanned in and then put it on a website for family members.
You scan them on a scanner? Did you just take pictures of them?
I sent them into a service, and I can't remember off the top of my head which service it is. It's one of the more popular ones, and of course,
like just send them a shoebox full of pictures and say scan
and
these
send
things
them off, and I had them come back into thumb drive, and and then I could go to the website and download it as well. It just made my life easier to do it that way, and just get something up there. Nothing beautiful, nothing fancy. It was just out there.
WordPress. I think you said you used WordPress.
Yeah. And it's like 120 some bucks a year. Done. Yeah. Here you go. Have a nice day.
How long do you think you'll leave those pictures out for?
Forever, until I'm alive. I mean, because it's one of those things right there, because as time moves on, you forget things. You forget things about your parents or your loved ones and so forth. And that's the main purpose. That was one of my dad's biggest fears, which was to be forgotten. And in those situations, but really just having that like going out and getting your physicals and everything like that, getting your colonoscopies, getting all that stuff, having that discussion, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but just have it say, hey, if something happens and I'm sitting on a table and I'm not responsive and so forth, here are my wishes. But having it legally, that way, if you have a big family and they're saying, well, no, Jim said this. Yeah. No, Mike said that. Having it black and white cuts through everything, and he'd say, nope, this is what he wanted to do.
I fully agree with that too. And I think, if you can't get an attorney, or if you're younger too, I think a lot of times people wait to do this until, they get older and things like that. Like I would suggest, if you're late 20s and older, LegalZoom is great. I'm going to be the only attorney to tell you to go to LegalZoom and use it. Because if in your late 20s, 30s, your assets are pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's not a lot there. You haven't accumulated a lot. You're still young. You're still working. So that living will or any will that you put through there, any trust, anything like that is more than sufficient, and it's better than nothing. Right. You do not want your stuff going through all the probate and the courts and everything. Mm-hmm. You want it just laid out in your will. So I'm here telling you, no matter what age you are, just go into LegalZoom, pay the $75, $60, whatever it is. Or if you don't even want to do that, you can Google a will. You can write a will on a napkin and sign it, and that is legally binding. So like, you just do whatever. Anything's better than nothing. Go out, grab one, put it down, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like, especially if you have kids involved, you have a spouse involved. That's when you really need to do it. I went and did that on LegalZoom. I'm an attorney. I didn't even draft my own. I was like, you know what? it's worth it. LegalZooms are great. I know they're up to date. They're current. That you pick the state that you're in. So I did that. I put it. I told my wife where it's at. I said it's here. If you ever need it, if I'm on a work trip, whatever, if I'm in a car wreck, it's right there. So everything's yours. I made it pretty simple. So yeah, just whatever age you're at. I think Ed, I think that's fantastic advice. And I think a lot of people, my parents just went through that as well, of not having proper documentation. And man, you just don't realize how much of a pain that is, especially if you have a lot of siblings and it's your parents, and then all the siblings don't agree on how things should be done. Right. So very much agree.
I was pretty much fortunate enough in my family. It's just me and my sister. And it was like, okay, here's what it is. 50-50, bing, bang, boom, done. So there was no fighting involved with that as well. One of the other things, Jim, you were talking about technology-wise, LastPass. I'm a LastPass subscriber since 2009 myself. And I got the family plan for my sister and brother-in-law. And as smart as they are, it took them years to kind of circle around to say, let me start using LastPass. So I got them on board with that. So I made my brother-in-law, to say, hey, if something happens to me, I go to work and I step outside and get struck by lightning, in 2 days, he'll have access to all my passwords to get at, because you hear about those stories. Hey, I got a relative passed away. They have a Facebook account. We try to get a hold of Facebook to take it down. They can't. It's up there forever. You know what I mean? So that's definitely another thing, But getting back with you, Jim, I mean, with what you went through and so forth, that probably brought a pretty different perspective on life there,
Ed, you would think it would, but I think I've been through this already. Like it was, when it first started happening, I kind of thought through this. My dad too passed away about 8 years ago. My mom, she's really close. I don't know. I've been preparing for this. This was, when this kind of thing happened, Mike, I might have told you, I had a bunch of conversations with Ed about it too, Ed Sullivan. And I said, I kind of been preparing for this moment for a while. Like affairs are in order. I kind of know it's a possibility. I wasn't shocked, right? It wasn't a shocking thing. So it was one of those kinds of things where I just kind of said, I think I'm kind of ready. Listen, that made me feel good that it wasn't I didn't catch it. I don't like being caught by surprise. That's one of my least favorite things. Hold on. I got to shift for a second. We'll come back to this, but there's a super funny conversation, and it's more of a one-sided conversation going on Twitch right now. And I got to play it because Mike, it's about you. So hold on. Let me see if I can get to this.
Oh Lord.
So here we go. Why is the dude in the right, that's you, Mike, in a map room, right? And then he says, all right. He says, is he a big geography fan? And I said, I think so, for sure. This is all happening behind the scenes. He says, or does he get lost a lot? Right? And then he said, he's pretty handsome. He could probably just get robbed.
I appreciate that.
He suggests immediately getting a room with a map.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty funny. And then let's see. Hold on.
Well, DJ King, I'll let you know on the secret. It's even more nerdy than that. So this map, you can't see it, but there's a bunch of flag pins. And anytime I contact that area with my ham radio, I put a pin in it. So it's a map that my wife got me. It's actually it looks really small here. Yeah. And my kids love, like, I'll be like, hey, we got South Africa or whatever, and they'll come help me put the flag pin of that country or state up there. So that's the explanation.
So he says instance. So apparently you're pretty handsome.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Wait a minute. He says, okay, never mind.
He drinks Coors Light. I'm safe from him for taking my wife.
What everyone in light is against me for this light.
I am. And then he says, okay, he's nerdy. I'm good. So
okay. I get some nerdiness credit with the ham radio.
I just thought it was hilarious that the Coors Light comment came in there, and I've given you such a hard time about drinking that. That's all behind the scenes on Twitch. If you do want to watch us on Twitch, it's a completely different audience over there. but it was just a funny when it
The
first
chats are always different on Twitch than YouTube. That's for sure.
when DG King came in, I was thinking, oh boy, where are we going with this? And so I appreciated the fact that it stayed funny, like it was super. And I was, commenting about that as well. But DG King, thanks for listening to us on Twitch, and thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Ed, anything when well, you had mentioned, so both your parents passed away last year, and you've kind of gone in. And Mike mentioned this earlier in a show, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, about starting to kind of pare down technology, right?
Exactly.
And I know we're a gadget show, and I know that seems a little odd, but I think it's appropriate.
Did we get
right?
any hate mail for that, Jim? Because we were talking about like spinning down VMs,
I know,
taking down self-hosted stuff, like getting away from Nextcloud. We didn't get much hate though.
No,
I was surprised. I thought our community would kind of be like, "Oh, geez, guys."
I kind of wonder as crazy as the world is right now, as crazy as the supply chain is, as crazy as trying to get stuff. Don't try to buy a GPU, right? Those kind of things, like $4,000.
I still haven't gotten one.
No,
I'm still just using my old one. I've been trying to get a 30 series, and I can't.
Ed, have you made any decisions to pare back some technology things?
I started recently. I know one of the podcasts where Mike was talking about paring down with his technology. I started thinking about that as well, because with me, I kind of there's a problem. Let me throw a lot of technology at it. Let's see what happens right there. Well, that's great for a while, but then it's just like you start thinking, it's like, wow, do I really need this technology? Do I really need that technology? So I started paring back. Like I had to use lights and installed throughout the house. It's great to say, okay, G, turn on the living room lights. Wow, that's great. But after a year and you're like, hey, G, turn on the lights downstairs, and nothing happens. Okay, G, turn on the lights. Nothing happens. Fine, I'll just flip the switch, okay, G, you just don't like me today,
Right.
G referring to Google, of course. I live in a Google house. No Amazon equipment here. Sorry about that, people out there like Amazon. I am a Prime.
There's no holy war. There's no holy war there.
Okay.
There's no holy war.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Now I don't get any hate mail or anything like that. But so I started taking a hard look, like Mike, like what you did. Just start taking a hard look. Do I really need this? And come to find out, I don't. So I really, I pared back. I even got away from the smart thermostat. Hey, it's a great thing. I went back and installed a regular thermostat, which is
really, you took the smart one down and put it.
I had Ecobee. I had it up for many years. Took it down and just put a standard.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, just put a standard one up there. It's just it's like let me get back to simpler life. I may change as time goes on, but it's like, hey, even took the I had the Google was it the Nest doorbell? Took that out and everything there. So I just kind of pared back and say, okay, what's important for me? But lately, I've been looking at, as far as technology goes, I've been looking at that new Pixel 6.
Oh yeah.
Because
I heard that was tough to order on the first day.
It's pretty tough. I'm kind of waiting to see the reviews that come out as far as the hardware goes and so forth. On that one. So I've got my eyes on that one. But again, I haven't made a firm decision yet. As far as other technology goes, you can't see it, but to the right of me, I ended up upgrading my router. I was starting to get some networking issues. So, I just
what'd you go with?
I ended up going with the Asus ROG ROG 11,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I went in
Those
there.
Those ROG ones are good.
Oh my God. I went in there, went to Best Buy, took out my credit card and said, I want that. Thank you very much.
Those are, if people are looking to upgrade routers, and if they don't want to go all the way to like pfSense and OpenSense, things like that, those routers, those ROG routers are kind of where I direct people to go. Cause I think they're of the things you can walk into a store and get, they are top of the line.
And I got the last one that was sitting on the shelf over there. And even the guy that was checking me out, was like, yeah, you got the big boy router. I said, yeah, when you spend $450, yep, you're going to get that. And then when
is that how much that one was? $450?
Yeah, $450.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, that's what I'm saying. Take out the credit card, throw it on the counter, and here you go. This is what I'm going to buy. But I've been happy with Asus because I like their technology. I like how they constantly update their routers, no matter how old they are. They constantly keep updating them and so forth. And like I said, you don't have to have a degree in in networking to sit down and go ahead and access them and set them up.
That's the big piece right there. Because when you said the price, it kind of surprised me because I was actually just looking at the Netgate, PFSense's branded routers, right, that they use. And one of them was $400. I was like, dang, that's really expensive. So when I heard 450, but then again, PFSense, you're gonna have to watch a couple of YouTube videos to figure out how to set up a PFSense router. It's not exactly intuitive. So it makes sense you get the power of something like a PFSense router, but with the convenience of, a really easy setup process. That makes sense. Okay.
Oh yeah, and setting it up was just great right there. Probably the next thing on my list is probably upgrade one of my Synology boxes. I'm a big fan of Synology. Love them.
They make great stuff.
Oh my god! And just setting it up for doing offsite backups. Like I've got one at my sister and brother-in-law's place, which is about 5 minutes from me, and I got one at my place, and I set it up to we back up each other's data, just through the internet. And I'm like, wonderful with that stuff right there. But for me, just paring down and just loving it. Was it the SG2100 is more affordable?
That's that's one of the PFSense ones. I think it's one of the Netgate ones. Yeah, because I think he was probably talking that I picked the $400 version. Yeah. The only thing about some of those, the more affordable Netgate ones, is when you add on the firewall, the throughput doesn't get you all the way up to gigabit. And I've got gigabit internet, so I don't want my router being my bottleneck, right? I need that to be full speed.
Oh, I think I have an update on that. So, Cox.
Well, your video has been amazing, Jim. I didn't want to jinx it by saying anything, but
no,
I think you found a resolution because it looks crispy tonight.
We went through the whole scenario, and I got a new modem, the new gigabit or gigablast. There we go. Panoramic, thing, which now means I'm now serving the neighborhood with a Cox Wi-Fi signal, right? Yeah, which I hate. They came out, replaced all the wire from the pole to the house, and they came in the house and checked all the wire inside the house. And then an engineer came out on a Saturday and checked the network in the neighborhood, and he was telling me, oh yeah, this switch we got this major switch down the street, and we got this thing, and it's like fingers on a tree. And I was like, "This really way more information than is it fixed?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I shocked it." I was like, well, "You did what?" He's like,
"That sounds not fixed."
He goes, "I shocked it, and I think we're gonna get some better use out of it." And honestly, since he did that work, it's been working. I've been getting 905 down and 35 up, which is great, and a bill for $250 from Cox for installation charges, right? And I was
really?
like, yeah. So hold on, there's more to the story. So I got online chat with them the other night and said, "Hey, I got this bill. Let's just talk about it." So we kind of go back and forth. And in the middle of it, I said, T-Mobile's looking pretty good about now, right? Because they're like $50.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Let me see what we can do for you."
Yeah.
So they ended up waiving the $250 and got the bill back to the normal amount. And I have not had the same internet problem. So the real question is, Mike, I don't need gigabit. Like in light of what we're talking about here, paring down.
Yeah.
I was paying about $100 for the 150/10, right? 150 down, 10 up. I was paying about $100 for that. I'm now paying $120 for Gigablast. Like now it's for the year, right?
And that's their promotional price?
That's their promotional price.
Because I'm paying $89 for Gigablast.
Well, then I didn't get the real promotional price. So I should probably call.
And I switched to that mid-promotional price from my last promotional price. But I thought they never do. I just went online and they brought me down to $89.
Well, okay. So, and I am contemplating going T-Mobile. I mean, I'm serious about it. I have great T-Mobile coverage here. Yeah. Because we were streaming. I mean, I had the phone on the desk streaming from my phone. I thought, what if I actually had a dedicated device doing this? And it's $50.
Do you port forward at all? Do you port forward for any internal services?
No.
Okay. Because sometimes with those cellular networks, they have that carrier grade NAT, and you can't port forward very easily with those. So that would be my only concern. But if you don't do that, I mean, well, so what they end up doing? So they waive the $250, but you're still at $120 for Gigablast.
$120 for Gigablast, yeah, $120 for the Gigablast, and
really, like you said, I think you already said it. I might have missed it, but you're paying for that Gigablast for the upload speed. Because I hate how Cox does it. We still with a Gigablast plan only with gigabit. We keep Gigablast as their marketing term. If you guys don't have Cox, that's what they call it. Then you only get 35 up with that, and if you go down, it jumps down to like 25 and then 15. It gets real at the upload. And
Well,
for
10
people who
was
podcast,
10 was
you're
the
uploading
plan I was
videos.
on.
I mean, that adds
Yeah.
on a lot of time.
It has
Right?
made a big difference. Like I'm seeing it now. So like on the weekends when I'm producing Home Gadget Geeks and I go to upload stuff, it's just there.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're
That's-
not looking at the meter slowly creeping up, you know. It's like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I think Andrew had asked what's the T-Mobile cap, and I got to look a little more into it. Oh, actually, now that I just said something, I am now seeing right above me here. You guys can't see it, but on my screen right above me there, it's showing the low bandwidth thing like I got before. Did my video get worse? Did my audio?
Good.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, so just ironic that it showed up as we were. I haven't seen it in 2 weeks, and it showed up when we were doing it. So I don't know, guys. I mean, one of the temptations. I still have the modem. Like I still have my original modem. Now that it was their line that was the problem, not my modem. So I'm kind of tempted to drive the thing back and say, just take this, like take it, or Mike, maybe to your point, try to work the price down a little bit more. Like, hey, T-Mobile's $50 and I have pretty good T-Mobile service here.
So
and I know you
my
just
neighbor
fixed my
paying
line.
89, right? He's right in the same street.
Exactly.
That's what you should say.
Oh, that's
and then I got the promotional rate. Just be like, why is my buddy paying for the same service, paying $89? Like, do you guys have a better rate right now? Because that's what he's on.
Yeah. Hey,
well, not even that. Does he have a better rate? I want to get the same rate he has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want the $89.
Right. Yeah, it was just, I know you guys have done a bunch of work.
my data cap, so I end up paying a little more than that because I stopped paying for unlimited and I keep going over my data cap. I think Brian actually mentioned it in chat. He said when he was working from home, his Cox data cap was nearly reached several times, and I have been going over mine. So usually by about only by about 50 to 100 gigs a month, but which is still saving money. That overage charge is still $40 less than paying $50 a month consistently for unlimited.
Right. They do now offer you a one-time, so you've blown through it a bunch of times.
Yeah,
so
a bunch of times.
For us mortals, they have a one-time forgiveness. So if you go over one time in a year, they'll waive that overage charge and make it pretty standard. But man, I'm calling them tonight. I'm doing I have a webcast I have to do at midnight tonight for work.
Ouch.
So it's gonna be late night. But as soon as we're done with this thing, I'm gonna jump on chat and be like, hey, my buddy just told me, and we'll see.
I'll send you my bill. So you can have it as reference.
I would like to try the T-Mobile service. I'm not lying. After doing hotspot off my phone here,
and then get a PFSense router and have 2 WANs with failover. And oh gosh, see that's like now you're getting me thinking like, do I add T-Mobile to my house as a failover service with my PFSense router? That sounds fun.
Yeah, Tony does say he's on T-Mobile Cell and they spam me all the time for their internet service. Yeah, that's the only reason I know about it is because they've been. I'm also on T-Mobile and they have been. I've been thinking about it, so that may be something. That may be a route I go down. I just don't know if I need all this speed. I know that sounds like. Of course you need the speed, right? I mean, everybody wants.
Like I rarely even need the speed, to be honest. But I do like it when I'm downloading games because it flies through those. Like I'll be on headset talking to my guys who are getting a big update, and they'll take an extra hour, and I'm like, I flew through it in like 10 minutes. Right? It was pretty easy.
Well, Jim, you may need it when your kids come home. Then it'll be.
I don't let them come home.
You don't let them come home.
I don't let them come home.
Just don't come in. Leave your devices outside.
Don't bother coming home.
Be like, hey, Dad, I'm back, Dad. But you know what? My laptop ain't working right.
I know.
Take a look at that.
Listen, I taught my kids how to fix their own computers. I didn't do a lot of things right as a parent, but one of the things I did do right was teach them. Tim, my fourth son, my Marine son, ordered a Roswell case. That came, it looked like it had gone through Iraq before it got here. It was beat up and smashed. Wow. So I was like, well, I guess you're going to need to file something with Newegg and they'll send you a new one. So he thinks about it for a second and he's like, I think I can fix it. And I was like, Tim, no, like get it. And he's like, no, I think I can fix this. So he gets some tools, comes down here, gets some tools, and he starts with pliers and stuff, starts pulling stuff out, and you hear him tapping, ding, 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 ding. He fixed it.
Nice.
I mean, it was he's we'll see. He still has to put his motherboard in it and some other stuff. But he was like, I was like, man, that's way more patience than I would have had. I would have.
That's the truth.
I'd have been super mad.
Yeah, talking about internet service providers, I just got an email the other day. Google Fiber's coming to my town. So
good.
Like,
you gonna take it?
Well, they're in the planning stages. Because even though I said I live in Charlotte, I live in the county of Cabarrus County, which is Concord, and Google Fiber just signed an agreement with Concord, North Carolina, that says yes, we're going to go ahead and install it in this area. So we're one of the places that's going to get it. So we're still in the planning stages. So
that's good to hear. I was super curious how that whole project was going, right? Because we heard all about the buzz at the beginning. Yeah. I haven't heard much, so I didn't know if it was one of those. You never know with Google. It's like, okay, are they going to keep going? They're just going to completely cut it off. So that's really cool. They're expanding cities still.
Hey, I'll be the first one to sign up. Yeah, I want that gigabit. Yeah. I'll be like, sign me up, hook a brother up, and I want that speed. Y'all have the gigabit speed. I'm still running 100 down and 10 up right now. So, because I'm dealing with Spectrum. So,
but Ed, it's that that's really all you need. 100 down and 10 up for most people is fast enough.
I like to play on my Xbox.
See, that's true.
That's
true.
where you notice it 100%. Anytime you have to download a game or
no, you're right.
Multiple people in the house, like especially with the advent of, most people I know, they don't longer just do a phone call. It's always a FaceTime. Yeah. And think about, that's just bandwidth. Yeah. So if you have 2 or 3 people in the house, 10 up, 7 up, that's not going to be enough for a couple people doing FaceTime, or all of a sudden one phone starts backing up the cloud at the same time. You need more than 10 up for sure. I have a buddy who lives kind of out on the outskirts of Omaha, and he has no internet provider. So he had to do some satellite. He went to go fire up Netflix, and it can't even pull in a 4K stream. They just won. And he's like, I turned off everything in the house. He goes, what do I do? I'm like, there's not much you can do. No. I said, honestly, it's tough.
It's a 4K stream. First world problems. I mean, come on. 1080p
is not 1080p stream on a 4K TV. It looks like, garbage.
Can't get Friends in 4K anymore.
I want to see the freckles, Jim. I want to see each pore on his nose. That's
exactly the sweat on the brow.
Exactly. Saving Private Ryan in 4K. Right? Yeah, no, not good, not good. Well, it's to kind of round this topic out, Mike. We're going to talk a little crypto here in a second. But to kind of round this out, I too have been thinking, simplifying some things in some ways. Like, how do I just get a little bit less? I think that's part of, I don't think it's a coincidence that the two of you are having that same thought. I think a lot of people are, because the rest of the world has gotten crazy, And so you're just like, oh my God, I need to simplify a few things, because since the rest of my life is not very stable, what's going on around me, I need to create some stability in my own space. And I bet if we polled the audience, I bet there's a lot of folks that listen to this show that have had that thought in the last year. They didn't know why they did, but they were kind of like, I need to simplify things a little bit, a little less of this, a little less of that, maybe a few less payments, maybe I don't have every a la carte video service, streaming service that's available, right? I mean, I just kind of think that's a reality for folks. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, Ed, I know you haven't gotten into crypto, but we want you to stay around for the conversation. Sure. Can you hang out with us for a little bit?
I'd be more than happy to.
Awesome. So chime in from the outsider's point of view on this crypto. But Mike, well, okay, we can't get past the fact that crypto's on fire again. Like
yesterday, it just boomed.
65, right? 65,000 for Bitcoin, and I think
that dropped way back down today on Bitcoin, but Ethereum's still up there.
Like 4, something like 30.
It's at 4,111 now. It got up to 4,350 in the middle of the night last night.
Like super crazy prices again.
And just so you guys, for reference, we were at 1,900 in June. So you've more than doubled since June.
Yeah, and
on Ethereum. Sorry, I always
on Ethereum, and then on Bitcoin,
you're probably in the 40s. 40,000, 35,000. Now you're up to 62,000 a coin. Yeah.
Every time this happens, be careful. Every time this happens, a new series of sharks come out in the water. They're looking. So just be careful with this. But Mike, you found kind of a cool new service you want to talk about. Go ahead, and what'd you find?
Yeah, I did. And it's new to me. I'll say that. So I've been following these for a while, but I've been very hesitant to jump in. What they are essentially crypto trading bots, right? And so they are bots where you tell them what you want them to do and they go and do it for you. That's like the easiest way I can describe what a bot is. What I don't want people to think of a bot as is, hey, there's this bot that just makes you money. You just turn it on and it just does all these cool trades and it's good. A bot does what you tell it to do. It's like a computer, right? You have to tell it to do something. And so for me, right, like my day-to-day job is in the wealth management space, right? So people who come and invest the money and how does that money get handled and what investments do they make and portfolios and mappings and strategies and everything like that. And so I've kind of, but that wasn't my background. My background is legal and mergers and acquisitions. So I've been, learning more and more about that just so I'm more well-rounded in my industry. And so what really caught my eye was finding a bot that was cloud-based that you could essentially plug in whatever kind of strategy you want. And when you think of a strategy, these are very similar to what you would use on stocks and everything like that. So, and I'll actually pull this up in a second, but yeah, Jim's got it up here. So the one I'm going to talk about tonight, there's kind of two main players in this space. There's 3 commas. So 3 commas, COMMAS. I think there's an S at the end. It might just be 3 comma. And then there's Crypto Hopper. I kind of did some playing around with both. And I landed on Crypto Hopper. And so what Crypto Hopper is, it is a platform that you can utilize to essentially build your crypto trading bots. And what I love about it is, number one, the pricing is pretty affordable. Number two, you don't actually have any crypto with Crypto Hopper. What Crypto Hopper does is it says, hey, give me your Binance or whatever exchange you use. It has a bunch of exchanges that it can talk with. It says, hey, plug in the API. And then all it's doing is it's doing the logic for you. And then it sends it to the API for me, I'm using Binance for this one. And it sends it to Binance and it just does all the trades in Binance, right? So that it's not an actual exchange itself. It's kind of like this software layer that sits on top, which I really like. So let me just share my screen here with you and kind of show you around. The other thing that I love while I'm pulling this up is that there is a big community around this, and there's a marketplace for strategies and signals and templates. So when you get started, it's kind of a blank canvas and you need to tell this bot what to do. And Crypto Hopper itself, I think, has like 3 very basic strategies. One's based off Bollinger Bands. If you ever done anything with finance, you kind of know what a Bollinger Band is. So you can do a Bollinger Band strategy and some of those things. But if you really want to dive into this, there are all sorts of strategies built by really smart people who are actually in this space and do it day to day. And so you can essentially just like copy the big guys. And there's some people charge money for those, some people don't. So I found this gentleman that I have really liked. I actually have followed a lot of his strategies outside of Crypto Hopper. And so that's what I utilize. And actually, this is kind of a cool example. You guys just saw an open order appear as we were talking right there. So I didn't do anything. The system now, I have Ethereum as a hold, and it's up 1.19%. And right now it says, okay, that's good. And the strategy is telling it to sell it. So it's going to sell it off right now. So all of that is automatic. So this strategy right now, what it's doing is it's buying and selling crypto for me based off what I told it. So what did I tell it to do? So what I really wanted to do with this strategy is called profit scalping. So in this market that we're in right now, where there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of opportunities to buy low, sell high in very small increments, right? If you buy, then it goes up just 1%, then sell it, okay? And then you just keep doing that over and over and over with a bunch of different coins. And so when you talk about the marketplace, this is really cool here. There is a whole marketplace of whatever, if you're looking for templates, if you're looking for strategies, signals. And so I found this Dex is the guy that I really like. He has a bunch of different strategies that he does. And I subscribe to his profit scalping strategy. And when you set this all up again, so I plugged in my exchange. So this is talking to Binance. And then you plug in your strategies. And then what it does essentially is it's constantly monitoring. And it's kind of cool. You can see over here on the right side, the last time it did anything. So depending on the level that you pay them. So I'm on the basic plan, which is $19 a month for Crypto Hopper. So $19 a month, it can do something every 10 minutes, right? So it's going to execute trades every 10 minutes. The more you pay, the more often it can cut that time down from 5 minutes to 2 minutes. But for me, I found that 10 minutes works just fine. So what it's doing here is you can see that order is still there, and sometimes it takes a few minutes. I actually got my wrist went off I think, yeah, my Binance notification already came in that sell has been executed. So that's going to update here in a second. But these are all the open positions. And so what you do is you actually choose a base currency that you want it to always go back to. And there's a few different trains of thought here, right? You could do, a lot of people do stable coins. So when you think of a stable coin, think of like the USDT, Tether, right? Those coins that mirror the US dollar. So those are always usually right around $1 US. And a lot of people like that just because it's very simple. The math works out. However, if you really believe in the upward trend of Bitcoin, you kind of want to follow Bitcoin. And so that way, as these buy and sell, it's always going back into Bitcoin. So you're building up your Bitcoin balance. What I also like about that is that these percentages, so right now, these are my open positions. So these are all open. They have not been sold yet. They've been purchased. So right now I have I have 2 in the negative, but 3 are in the money right now is what we'll call it. So this one that's up, let's say, so Bitcoin Cash is one of the holdings. It's up 0.66%. That is relative to what I bought it with Bitcoin, right? So the hard part is Bitcoin fluctuates as well. So if BCH stays the same, but Bitcoin starts to fall, that becomes more profitable, right? Because I can sell it for more Bitcoin. So I kind of like that you can have this all relate back, because what I don't want to happen is as Bitcoin starts to take a rise, I don't want all these in relation to the US dollar. I want to make sure that I'm not, essentially what I want to make sure is that if I had just left it in Bitcoin, I don't want that to be more profitable than what I'm doing. So I always want to make sure that the trading I'm doing is more profitable than if I had just sat and held Bitcoin, because that's what I was doing. I was holding Bitcoin, I was holding Ethereum, and that's fine, but you're just riding the wave of one. So right now it's saying, hey, I'm going to try and be more profitable than you just sitting there holding one. And so it's just a really cool platform. That was a really long, convoluted way, and it's kind of, I'll just go through the other stuff. You can see your last 5 sells. So for me, it hasn't given me a negative sell yet. Now I have it set to that on purpose, and sometimes it's had to hold it for more than a day. I've been using this for 2 days. All my positions have ended up selling. Some of them held for more than a day before they finally became profitable. This 0 is actually, I put in Ethereum and converted it to Bitcoin, so I could get more funds in there. And then you've got, this is kind of cool too, you get your output. So this is coming from your signals and your strategy that you have inputted. So it's saying what it was going to do. So actually it said, hey, I actually was going to buy Ethereum. I got a signal that Ethereum would be a good buy, but you've reached your max open positions, because I told it I only want 1 open position per coin. And I already have up here, I just sold it. I already had an Ethereum open position when that tried to buy. So it's kind of cool. It gives you all the level of detail you want. You can get more or less ingrained with it. If all of a sudden we enter a bear market, this strategy actually turns off buying. It says, hey, I detect a bear market. I don't want to be buying right now because everything's going to be going down. So it turns off buying. And then whenever it detects that we're back up in an uptrend, it turns buying back on. So all of those things, though, are customizable to what you want to do. So for me, this was really a perfect, I'm kind of ADHD. I like to see a lot of volume. So this profit scalping shows a lot of trades throughout the day. And it also has the protection of upside and downside. Just a really, really fun, interesting way to think about crypto in a way that I hadn't before. This treats it almost like the stock market, which is kind of fun to me. It applies a little bit of logic, strategy. And what I love about it is it takes out the emotion for me, and it also automates everything that I would want to do. So for me, like I started out with just a few $100s, and I ended up putting over actually a pretty big chunk of my crypto into here. And the trades that it's doing, first of all, I would never have the guts to put that much money into a single trade, and I would never have the data backing to do it. I'm not going to make all those calculations, but this is doing it for me. It's saying, hey, the trend right now is this is a good time to buy. It's going to sell when the math makes sense for it to sell, not when I'm feeling, ooh, I could go a little bit more. I get a little higher. I could get a little higher, right? Because that's what gets me in trouble. Sometimes you can hold on a little bit longer, or you sell too short. You kind of freak out on the tiniest little downside when you could have made a little more. So it takes out all the emotion, which I really enjoy. So
the
more really convoluted explanation.
No, it's super cool. Like if you're a numbers nerd.
Yeah, I'm a big numbers nerd.
You're liking this. If you pay more, does it execute faster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 3 plans. There's $19, $49, and then $99 a month. And you can get all the way down to 2-minute execution, which is actually really fast. And you would actually need signals and strategies that are coming in that fast. And I think the signals I get some of my signals from the same guy who I get the strategy from, and his signals do come in pretty fast. I think I probably could go all the way up. And depending on the amount of money that you have in here, $99 could be nothing for guys who have tens of thousands of dollars in crypto that they're trading every day, right? That could be, oh, hey, I'll make that in one trade. So it really just depends. I think I might end up finding myself in the middle ground there as I get more into this, because I think 10 minutes going all the way down to 5, which is the middle ground, would actually help quite a bit. I have noticed there's a few times where the strategy has told it to sell, but the signal came in 4 minutes ago, and in crypto, 4 minutes is an eternity. And then I didn't make as much, right? Gotcha. And for me, for this, it's okay. So if on that screen you saw that, so I've only been up for 2 days, and actually I only put in the majority of the funds this morning, up 2%, right? So it's been buying and selling, so up 2%. If now we're in a crazy day, right? The last 2 days have been wild, but today has been a bear day for a lot of coins. Bitcoin has gone consistently down today. A lot of coins are down. But 2%, even if you were doing 0.5% to 1.5% every day, that can lead to some pretty good returns when you think about it. And so just setting this, letting it go. So it's going to be an experiment for me. So I'll give you guys updates. I'm definitely going to let this run for about a month. I won't switch the strategy for a month. I'm going to keep it there. I'm just going to do these testing. But the other cool thing, just real quick on that, is you can actually do back testing. So you can take your strategy that you put in and say, hey, if I had used this strategy for the last 30 days, how would I have fared? Which is a really cool way to see if you mess something up. And the first time I was setting this up, I had messed something up because all the cells were at a loss. I was like, okay, what did I check that did that? But you can do all this back testing to make sure before you hit that go live button that you're not just going to lose all your funds.
Mike, I threw your affiliate link in the chat. I'll throw it in the show notes. Neil, that'll be in the show notes. What is that? What's the affiliate thing do? Like, is there in the affiliate relationship? Like if you go to the averageguy.tv/Coinbase and you sign up for an account, you get 10, I get 10 after your first $100 trade. What does this do? Do you know?
That is a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
All right. Well, give it a try. It can't hurt you.
Right? Yeah. And I don't know if there is honestly a benefit to them actually.
Okay.
Because I use someone else's and I don't remember having a benefit to it besides just supporting me. So if you guys want to, if you're going to use it anyway, you can click on that link and it helps me out a little bit, and then you can refer your friends as well. But I'm not doing it because of that. If you're going to use it, you might as well. I just thought that we have not talked about bots in crypto, Jim. It's not something that you and I have really discussed. And we also have not discussed trading crypto in terms of using an actual strategy and signals and what do you want to do, right? And like, cause I kind of want to build a downside strategy too that I could run during a bear market. I think that'd be kind of fun. So actually I was going to go up and sit with my investment guys at work and be like, all right, let's nerd out for a little bit and build a downside crypto strategy and then back test it and see how it works. That's the kind of nerdy stuff we do at work just for fun. But it's fun and it's something we hadn't talked about before.
So, Mike, how much do you diversify with this? Like I said, I'm nowhere near the capacity you are with cryptocurrency and so forth. I mean, is it something like a decent strategy to diversify in many different coins, or just stick with only a couple of coins as far as buying and selling?
So that's a really good question. And I think my philosophy on this actually changed when I really dove into the bot. So if I was just talking to, my dad or someone who just getting started and say, hey, what should I do? I would say start with like the 3 majors, even just the 2 majors, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe add in Litecoin in there. And like that, consider that your main portion. If you want to have fun with some of the other alts, like that's totally fine. But as far as like just the most solid advice is, I would say just stick with the mains. However, right. So what this bot is doing is, I'm utilizing every single coin that Binance can do when I'm using Bitcoin as a main coin. So there's 9 coins that Binance has a market for, because there's these markets, right? BTC to Ethereum, Bitcoin to this, Bitcoin to that. Binance just has 9 of these. If I was using something like Tether, I'd have a ton more options. So I told it to use all 9. So whenever any of those 9 coins, whenever that strategy says, hey, it's a good time to buy one of these coins, it takes my Bitcoin and goes and buys that coin. And then when it goes up a certain percent, it sells it and brings it back to Bitcoin. So they can be really useful for like short-term stuff. The long-term, it's just kind of what you want to do and kind of your risk appetite, right? Because are any of those going to succeed in the future? big
Who
question mark.
knows?
But it's also a big question mark of whether the big ones are going to too. Now, I think that question mark is pretty minimal. I think it's pretty clear that crypto in general is here to stay. It's just
Right.
which coins are going to win out. So yeah, that kind of depends on what you're going to do with it. But I say that, in my opinion, right now, and this is not financial advice, but if I had money to throw at something, I would put it all on Ethereum and just sit back and relax and don't check it every day. Just check it every few days. Let it ride. Ethereum's my favorite right now.
Now, when you buy and selling with these bots and so forth, normally when you do stocks and so forth, there's a charge to do that.
Yeah,
either
and
buy
there
or
is for
sell.
this as well.
Is it, how much is it? Or does it vary based upon how much you're purchasing and selling?
It does. So usually you're talking about 0.1% in fees on Binance. Sometimes they're a lot higher, but on Binance they're about 0.1%.
So it's
they're
based upon a coin, in other words, as far as what you're trading, it depends on, I see. So if it's like Bitcoin, what would be the cost?
So it's whatever, it's a 0.1% of the total Bitcoin that you traded. So if you were doing US dollars to Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin is sitting at $62,000, 830. So if you bought one whole Bitcoin, you would pay 62,830, but you'd pay a little bit on top of that. You'd pay a tenth of a percent of that on top as a fee.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, and so the fees is something you do have to be careful about when you get the bots, just to make sure that your minimums. So make sure your minimums, you're not just, because if you're only going into a bot with like $100, that might not be the best idea because you're going to get swallowed up in fees, right? Because you're not going to be making enough to make a dent. One tip on that is if you're using Binance, buy some BNB. That's the Binance token. Because if you have some BNB in your account on Binance, it'll actually use that to pay fees, and they give you a discount if you're using that coin to pay fees. And it's like a 25% discount on your overall fee. So a little tip there, especially if you're doing this high volume stuff. So I just loaded up. I put like $100 worth of BNB in there that it can use for, I don't know how long it's going to last me, but it'll use that for the fees instead of taking it out from everywhere else.
Well, we'll expect a report next week from you when you're out of it. And
when I'm out of when I've fully pulled everything out.
Yeah.
When the market crashed and I'm poor again.
It'll peak on Sunday.
I'm crypto poor.
You'll peak on Sunday, and then by Thursday it'll be like, that was the dumbest thing. I don't know why anybody would do that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, it's kind of, Jim, that's the funny part. It's kind of the opposite for me, right? Because I am so up and down with crypto that this is a steady strategy that's going to do it, and we know the math behind it, and it's just going to do it every day, all day, 24/7, and I don't have to be the one making these emotional decisions anymore on my highs and my lows. We all know how I am, so it's just trust it, just let it ride.
Well, and my strategy has been the best decision I ever made was decisions I didn't make, and it's actually paid off really well. I haven't really done anything, and it's because I didn't sell in the past. It's, it's done a lot. So you're like, well, shoot, that's not a bad strategy. It's just kind of sit and wait, and to have some in Bitcoin, to have some in Ethereum. I've got some Tezos, some others that, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do nothing. So that can work. Yeah, it depends, but that can work as well for you in some cases. So cool. Well, Mike, what's the name of the site again? Crypto
Hopper.
Yep.
Or try out 3 Commas. They're both really good. I think there's very limited difference between the two, but you might find there's some good comparisons out there on Google that if you're using a certain exchange or if you're doing something a certain way, you might like one over the other. One quick thing I'll mention too is there are actually some self-hosted options. We were talking about simplifying technology, and at first I thought, what I want is a Docker container running on my Unraid server that's, a crypto bot. Wouldn't that be cool? I'm like, no, Mike, we just talked about this. We're not adding any more complexity. And when my internet goes down, I don't want my bot going down.
Yeah.
So both of those options, 3 Commas and Crypto Hopper, are fully cloud-based, up 24/7. But there are, if it is something you want to do, you can self-host some, not these 2 options, but other programs that'll do the same.
Now, one thing I understand, Mike, is that we were talking earlier about going to Vegas and not having a good time, but I'm trying to see the correlation. If you gamble, aren't you kind of doing that right here with the cryptocurrency, gambling?
Yeah.
but with a scientific approach. But yet you
100%.
don't.
And
but yet you
the
don't like
reason I
Vegas.
don't like Vegas is because I love gambling. So it is not a good place for me to go because I don't know if I should admit that publicly, but I love it. Like I don't do it very often, but man, do I enjoy it. So crypto kind of scratches that itch for me a little bit, which is lucky because it's illegal in Nebraska, so we have to head over to Iowa if we want to gamble anyway. So it saves me about a 45-minute drive over to Iowa.
Well, it looks super interesting. I don't. It looks like
It
something
does.
I would obsess about, and so I think I'm gonna pass on this one. But I have been, of course, watching the markets. I've had a ton of fun. Ken and I have been doing this Chia, which is a hard drive based crypto, and they've got, Mike. I thought the burst stuff got out of control. Back when we were doing burst coin and
Yeah.
right, that thing had about, I don't know, a dozen forks, right? That when they fork the software and basically make it a new thing out of the old. This one's got, I think, 50.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And are there followings on all the different forks?
Yeah, and it's out of control. It's just out of control. So I think I have 16 or 17 of them running because you just don't know. They all use the same hard drive plots, so it's not like you have to replot everything. That's what takes all the time and energy and such. Running the miners doesn't take running the farmers doesn't take, because they farm. They don't mine, they farm. It doesn't take the energy, or at least as much as the plotting does. So I'll admit it's my, you're messing with the bots. I'm messing with these forks. It's something, I come home, check Discord. Is there a new one? Who's doing what? Who's going to survive? It is a big game of Survivor, right? Who's going to survive? And will any of these actually be worth anything? You know, and you get, you walk away. Oh, I've got a couple hundred of this. And you think, well, that's not even worth a nickel. Well, we said the same thing about Bitcoin, like at 264, we turned it down. You and me. We right
publicly. It's on record. You guys can go back and watch that episode.
$264. We turned it down, and man, I'm kicking myself for that every day. So
we need like a running calculator, Jim, on the website. No, if you and I had put in $100 at that time,
that'd be depressing, Mike. Well, listen, Edward had talked me into $50 a month for a year, like just dollar cost average. Go down to the ATM and buy $50 worth. Because remember, they had that ATM down at Jones Brothers Cupcakes down in the Exarban, and he had me talked into it. And I was like, I'm not going to give away $50 a month. Like, I could be buying internet stuff with that.
Or buying cigars.
That could be well, it wasn't smoking in those days, but I could have been lighting a few candles.
The easy math is if we had bought one for $264, we'd have $62,000 right now.
I know.
So that's the easy math.
That is the easy math.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
If we had bought, 2,000's worth about, we'd have, 600 and some odd $1,000.
I know.
Isn't that wild?
I know, this is crazy.
Someone at work asked me this. They're like, do you have like a bunch of regrets? I've told them all the times I've sold and I've bought and I've sold and I bought. Like, I'm like, no, you can't. Like,
no.
Do you guys, you can't think back on that and be like, oh man, and kick yourself and
no, you
got to enjoy it.
You can't. You just got to go with it. Well, super cool. Ed, thanks for coming out tonight and hanging out with us. For folks who don't know, Ed's a longtime listener, came out to the meetups. Like a lot of the guys that were at the meetups know you. And so thanks for hanging out. Why do you hang around? Why do you keep hanging out around the community? I mean, these kind of shenanigans, I think by now you would have been like, I'm giving up on these guys. Why do you stay with us?
I'll be honest with you. To me, it just refreshes my enthusiasm for the technology. Because you guys talk about different topics. Like, for example, another podcast I listened to, a cigar podcast. You were on there, Jim. And I forgot the name of the podcast off the top of my
Cigar
head.
Authority.
Yeah, you were on there, man. I was super jealous when you were on over there, having a podcast and having a cigar at the same time.
It's pretty great.
But you guys talk about different technologies, just not computers, but different types. I like the ones to Cigar Authority when you had the episode about technology and cigars.
Yeah.
And you had
You
The
said
guy
you
came
liked the episode with John too. We had John
Yeah.
Aidlot on,
Yeah.
and talking about biking. He said you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I think maybe I should rebrand the show. Home Gadget Geeks, like lifestyle tech or friendly lifestyle tech, because that's really what we do. Like we don't review anything. We don't dive deep in. I mean, Mike, what you just did is the closest thing that we'd ever do to a review.
But Jim, I'll go back to the an old wise saying that I've used in working in technology for over 25 years. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. No.
It's been working for you, because when y'all come out with your podcasts, no matter what I'm listening to, I'll stop listening to it and I listen to you guys.
Nice, thank you. Thanks for doing that. Well, I always wonder. There's some weeks I'm like, why? What rubbish?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Mike and I are just having a good time. And it's fun. Next,
I still use that NVIDIA Shield every day, by the way.
Hey,
every day. It's the one actually in our bedroom. It gets the most use. That thing's awesome.
Oh, that's right.
I still love it.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, and you started my addiction to those. I now have 3 NVIDIA Shields because I just love them. They're rock stars for me.
I know I felt my ears burning. Your wife's probably looking at me, giving me the stink eye.
No, she loves them too. She loves the remote. She's like, this is the best remote of any star. It's the new triangle one. I upgraded to one of those, and she's like, this is the best remote of anything. So that's why she loves them.
Oh, great!
You can ping the remote from your app on your phone, because we always lose the remote. She's like, there's little things that just make a device.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you, Mike.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm more than happy to help you out with that.
Well, next week, John Maddox is on with us from Channels, and we're going to catch up with him on all the things that are going on with Channels. I, this weekend, finally moved Channels off of my NVIDIA Shield and back onto a Windows box. It was just, it kept, on the Shield, it just kept stopping. And I have to, I'd miss recordings. You can't have a DVR for the wife and have it missing recordings. It just, and I couldn't, for whatever reason, I could not figure it out. I didn't want to spend a ton of time. I knew it worked well on Windows, so I moved it over, put it on the NVMe storage. It's awesome. It's fast. It works great. So we'll catch up with John next week. What's going on at Channels and some of those, just kind of update. He's kind of a gadget geek himself, so he'll be on. Ed, again, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. A couple reminders on our way out. Don't forget, and I forgot to ask you, when you set up your website, hopefully you use Maple Grove Partners. But if you didn't, that's okay too. Maple Grove Partners get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Of course, that's Christian. You can get plans as little as $10 an hour. By the way, Ed, if you didn't use them, and that's okay if you didn't, and the service that you did use lets you down, to go back to Maple Grove Partners. Christian will pull that thing in and host it. It'll be awesome. He'll take care of you over there.
When are you guys going to do the with Christian, the podcast you guys do together there?
Cyber Frontiers.
When's another one? I've been following Cyber Frontiers for years, ever since Christian was in high school.
I know. I got to get it on a schedule. That's the only thing. I will. I'm working on some new branding for Home Gadget Geeks, and we'll get Cyber Frontiers fired up. So, cool. So good stuff. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Yeah, we always appreciate it. I always love hearing from you guys. You can send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv if you want to do it. Follow me on Twitter at @jcollison. Mike is at Uyghur Tech. We'd love to hear from you that way as well. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for coming out. If you're listening live, we probably won't do much of a post show, but you never know. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Ed, thanks again. Man. Great catching up with you.
It's a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure coming out there. Like, seriously, I listen to y'all's podcast. Cyber Frontiers, I listen to that too. Listen to Cyber Frontiers for so many years. It's kind of like watching Christian grow up. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
High school and through college, and now he's knocking down the big money and so forth.
Right.
And so forth. I'm waiting for him to trade in his car and get himself like a Mercedes or BMW.
No, he's too smart for that.
He'll just say, Jim, I'll fly to you on my jet and we'll record in Omaha. That's what he's gonna say eventually. Me and Bezos are flying down. Bye, DJ King.
Mike, you picked up a serious fan.
A fan, yeah.
DJ King says I couldn't sleep, so I came to see Handsome Mike. That could be your new nickname for the show. Handsome.
Let's not.
Start calling you HM, man.
HM.
Is that Hannah? Is Hannah logged in to Twitch?
Yep, Hannah's DJ King. Or DG.
DG King.
Yeah.
I-
DJ King, you gotta compete with my wife. I'm sorry.
Listen, usually this goes one of two ways when you get somebody on Twitch. It's either super appropriate or super
Yeah,
inappropriate.
DJ King, I appreciate you keeping it above brow. Right? It was all good. They were good jokes.
Yeah, mostly. I've been leaving the ones out that probably aren't appropriate.
But yeah, she is really good looking too, and no, you cannot see her. It's a hard no, hard pass.
Oh
my God! So Jim, if you don't mind me asking, have you just given up smoking cigars? Are you still smoking them?
Oh yeah, no, still enjoying them.
You smoke too, right?
When with Jim.
Yeah, with me.
So me. Jim's my bad influence. He
when I went out to
a new place though that we went to. I was actually we got to go back there, Jim. I liked that place I went to after we visited Carson.
That was good. That was called Safari.
Yeah,
I think that was called Safari out on 135th and Dodge or no 135th and Maple, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, Ed, I went out and saw Ed Sullivan for Scar Authority, and man, in that week,
how was that?
Oh my gosh, you can't, like, it's unbelievable. Like I got on the plane Sunday, I was like, I don't want to smoke another cigar for 6 months. Like I've had everything I can handle. And I really felt that way. Like I could, I had to wear the mask on the plane, and you just kind of smell it.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm done.
And then you get back, it's like I gotta wash my clothes 2 or 3 times.
Oh yeah,
smoke
for
out.
sure. It was, and then I think I'm still trying to get it out. And then a week or 2 later, you're kind of like, okay, like I'm ready again. So it just takes a little time to.
Well, and the thing of it is the weather. I mean, like yesterday, I came home. I left work. I got outside, and it's like it is such a beautiful day. I said, so I went home, ate something because, of course, when you're smoking cigars, you don't want to smoke on an empty stomach. So, I went home, had some dinner, and just basically brought my book with me. Went over there and just burned a couple of cigars. So, what you guys smoking right now? What's your go-to sticks?
Oh, that's a good question. What's yours? You got one?
There? Yeah. If you had the iPhone, you can get the cigar scanner, which you may or may not see right there, which you can get on Android. You can still get it on the iPhone, but you have to go to the website and then set it up as an app on your phone.
Oh yeah.
So, but on Android, so I tell you what, I love it. One that I just fell in love with recently. I'm a big Drew Estates fan. Mm-hmm. Love their cigars. Love their infused, but this one is not an infused cigar. It's called Nica, Nica Rustica, Rustica. That is a smooth stick. I tell you what, it's about I say mild to medium, more kind of leaning towards a medium cigar. And I'm more of a mild type of a cigar with Connecticut wrapper. Mm-hmm. But with this one, I tried it. Fell in love, man. I'll be honest with you. I think this week alone, I probably spoke 2 or 3 of them, just going over there. But I mean, but there's other ones I smoke, but like that one, that's my go-to.
The Drew Estate Tabak, is kind of is the family favorite. That's kind of what
I think you gave me one of those, Jim, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Is that what you brought over? Those were good.
They're really they're chocolatey and delicious.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Yeah, it's hard not to, there's different camps on this. Some guys are kind of purists or traditionalists and say, hey, you don't do any infused. Some I can, I can go back and forth on them. I can go either way, as they say in the business with them. I really enjoy them, and one of my humidors is full of them. So it's just a good for us. It's a good family. That's the family one.
Yeah.
One of the things, Ed, that in Mike, this is something too to remember. One of the things we've gotten into is the little cigarillos, and those have gotten better. Yeah. Like they used to be kind of junk.
Yeah.
And they come in a tin. It's $20 a tin, and you get 10. So $2 each. Yeah. And it's a 25-minute stick instead of an hour or hour and whatever. And it's just a little more manageable, not quite as much. You're not out there as long. You don't, it's just not as much tobacco.
Yep.
So it's kind of a great way to, if you want to experience it, but you don't necessarily want to, smoke the whole hog.
Yeah.
You can kind of, and so that has been one. I've been keeping some of those on hand just for times when it's just like, yeah, no, a little bit, but not a lot, type deal. That's been pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and basically, some people refer to them as dog walkers. So it's just enough to go out there and walk your dog and have a cigar at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a good name for them.
Well, the other way around that, the other way around that too is they're doing little, 3.5-inch sticks that, so they're 50 round, but 3.5 long. And so it's just a shorter stick. It just doesn't last as long. And so again, I think some guys think when they think about a stogie, they think about a 60 by, a 7 inch, 7 by 60. Yeah, and you're there for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I bought one. We went to Havana downtown, and I watched a College World Series game, and I bought one of those 60 by 70, a Churchill, and it got me 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
while I watched the whole game.
Yeah,
but you don't have to necessarily have to go full bore on that.
And usually with some of my friends that they know I smoke cigars and they're cigarette smokers, they want to go out with me and smoke a cigar. And I'm like, okay, here's the rules. The rules are this: you don't inhale. That's one thing. And two, before we smoke, we're definitely going to eat.
Yes.
You definitely want to have a full stomach with that.
Yeah.
And and just just inhale in the mouth and then blow out. But also too, whenever I travel, like down in Indianapolis, Indiana, when we were doing the the meetups and so forth, Nikki Blaine's over there in Indianapolis, Indiana is a great cigar lounge. They do Rat Pat music and so forth. So whenever I travel, like I'm gonna go on vacation in a couple of weeks, go back home to Tampa. There's a couple of cigar lounges I go to, and one of my friends told me about one down in Ybor City that I'm gonna go ahead and cruise in there and sit down. And people tell me, they ask me, well, Ed, you smoke cigars. Why do you like smoking cigars? And for me, naturally, I'm an introvert. I can stay at home, just be as comfortable as going out. But me going out and smoking a cigar, I can meet somebody, a total stranger, which I met more than one time. I'll sit down and strike up a conversation. Because one thing that we have in common, we both like to smoke cigars. Yeah. So then you sit there and you have conversations, about different things and so forth. And it's just the camaraderie.
It really slows down, kind of forces you into a conversation. I think
it does.
When I will never do it alone. That's not my thing. I don't want to because I want to do it with somebody else, or I want to be talking to somebody else, because it's a time to, Mike, we enjoyed that a Sunday. It was a Sunday, right? Sunday afternoon. I think football was still in preseason, but we got a good opportunity to kind of sit and just spend some time talking, and it was we got to go back, Mike, you and I need to grab my number 2 son, because he's just down the street.
But I agree, it's a social aspect. That's what I love about it too, right? It's the people you meet around there. That's
And for me, I have no fears. I'll meet some friends. I'll meet some not this Saturday, but next Saturday. But there's times I'm just like, you know what? I want to go smoke a cigar. I'll just go by myself and sit down and just meet people. Just sit down and have a cigar.
Well, meet people. Yeah, meet people. I will never do it to just be alone. That seems like the weirdest thing ever. No. I want to do it with people.
I want to meet people. If I do that, I do it here and have my 18-year-old single malt scotch. Just pour me a finger at that one right there. Nice. You guys are in Charlotte, man. Hit me up.
Sounds good.
We'll go out and hit the cigar lounge, man. Boom. And kick back and relax and sit there and chill and talk.
Hey, if you're listening live, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate you guys. We'll let you go. I got to start getting ready for this midnight. I'm the keynote at this conference, so I need to start getting ready. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming out.